Iron Maiden was formed on a Christmas day exactly 50 years ago. Yeah, not really.
Yeah, unbelievable.
So today, on a Christmas day, let's go all the way back to the very beginning of the band we know today as Iron Maiden, and once and for all debunk one of the most popular myths about the formation of one of the greatest heavy metal bands on the planet. Here you go. But before we start, guys, Merry Christmas to each and every one of you. Thank you guys so much for another year of metal mayhem and for this incredible heavy metal community that we're building together. Seriously guys, I would never have been able to be where I'm at today without all of you metal pilgrims around the world. So thank you guys so much for your support of this show, for this incredible community, for your support of me and my country through this very difficult time. Whether you celebrate or not, have a wonderful time with your family and loved ones, and God bless you all. Before galloping bass lines, flying 80s, and sold-out stadiums, Steve Harris was just working-class East End lad with two obsessions: football and music.
Yeah, apparently.
Really?
Steve grew up in Leadston, East London, and his first dream wasn't music. It was actually football, and not just a dreamer he was. Steve was actually pretty good. So good, in fact, that he was scouted by West Ham United and spent time in their youth system, keeping that passion for football alive for pretty much his entire life.
Yeah, because the first game I went to, my mate, I was 9 and he was 10, and we jumped on the bus and I saw being beat Newcastle 4-3. And that was it, I was hooked.
But in the late teens, something shifted. After seeing bands like Deep Purple and Wishbone Ash, Steve fell hard for rock music, and especially for its proggier side, which eventually led to him first dreaming about becoming a drummer. Yet because he simply did not have enough space for a drum kit, he went with what in his opinion was the second best thing: a bass. But interestingly enough, even that wasn't his first instrument, as he first tried to learn to play acoustic guitar. Yet Steve quickly abandoned that idea after learning just a few chords. And the funniest thing is that that decision would change rock music forever. And now pretty much every diehard Iron Maiden fan knows that after a while, well, around 1972, Steve Harris joins Gypsy's Kiss, and it would be Gypsy's Kiss that would eventually become his first major proper band. And even though they didn't get very far for the mere 2.5 years of their existence, well, nevertheless, he did get a valuable experience which would later on form him as a musician. And it was there where he would first get the vision of more complex songs, which we all, of course, would know him for as a composer later on. After Gypsy's Case fell apart, there was Smiler, a band that looked way more promising. They played covers, gigged often, and even rehearsed a few of Steve's original songs, until the other band members, of course, infamously said that they didn't want to play his material because it was too complicated, which, as we all know, was a huge mistake, because it was that complexity which would eventually help Steve Harris's future bands stand out from the rest. And by the way guys, in this particular episode, I'm not gonna go into the details of formation of Gypsy's Kiss and Smiler and Steve Harris's tenure in both of those bands, simply because that episode would have been very long. And I do understand that during this season of the year, you probably have way more important things to do than to listen to me blab for hours.
Exactly.
But nevertheless, if you would like me to dive deeper into those early bands of Steve Harris in some future videos, please do let me know in the comments. I'll be more than happy to do that. Because, you know, talking about heavy metal is literally my biggest passion. But nevertheless, it was because of Smiler band members' inability or the lack of desire for them to play more complex Steve Harris songs in their repertoire that Steve Harris would eventually leave this band and form Iron Maiden, while sitting in his mother's house on a Christmas day in 1975. Or so does the story go. Now, most people, for some weird reason, think that Iron Maiden was actually formed on Christmas Day that year. Well, because this is what Wikipedia says and a bunch of other websites and biographical books. And we all know those cannot lie, right?
Yes, that's true.
But at the same time, this is not entirely true. Unlike a popular belief, Steve Harris did not form Iron Maiden on Christmas Day of 1975, but he'd done that around 4 months earlier, right after leaving Smiler. And as far as I know, he started jamming with Dave Sullivan, Ron Matthews, Paul Day and Terry Rance as early as in summer that year. And at first the boys would play together without a name whatsoever, after that coming up with Ash Mountain. And only several months later, after watching a film adaptation of The Man in the Iron Mask, based on the famous novel by Alexander Dumas, Steve Harris came up with the name Iron Maiden, which the rest of the boys simply loved, resulting in him settling down on it as a name for his newly formed band on Christmas Day of 1975.
An Iron Maiden!
And by the way, this year, with the release of the Infinite Dreams book, Steve Harris has finally confirmed this once and for all in his prologue, saying, "It doesn't feel that long ago that I was at my mom's around Christmas time deciding on the name. And there's this sort of discrepancy where people think it all happened on Christmas Day. It didn't. The band had formed earlier in the year around August. It's just around then that I decided, out of the possibilities, that Iron Maiden would have to be the name. And we went from there, finally busting one of the biggest myths about Maiden's early days." But yes, it was exactly 50 years ago today that Steve Harris and his band members would finally settle on a name of a band that, through their hard work and dedication, will eventually change what rock and roll and heavy metal will sound like, and become one of the most influential and one of the most legendary bands on the planet. And for that, all of us Iron Maiden fans around the world are eternally grateful to the legendary Steve Harris. So, whether on this day or not, happy 50th anniversary, Iron Maiden, and happy 50th anniversary to all of the Iron Maiden fan members. Thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!